Welcome to the County Manager's Report. Douglas County Manager Steve Mokrohiski is here. Welcome, Steve.
Thanks, Lloyd. Great to be back.
And we are, checking the forest to make sure there's still some trees left, because I hear you're getting a lot of emails.
Yes,
Just reams and reams.
Yeah.
The legislative
well,
session.
I don't print all of it off, but yeah, getting used to going to bed and I have no new emails, and then I wake up and I've got 100 new emails, and that's what happens when you have a legislative session going on. There's new bills come out the day before, and then you get all of them forwarded to you, and you go through them and try and respond to those that could potentially impact.
And it must get you to sleep real quick, too. You start reading those things, and just...
Yeah, it does, although sometimes it keeps me up at night. But no, we're getting through it, and I think we're getting towards the end of the new bills that are coming out. So I'm having a greater and greater appreciation for the 120-day session every 2 years that the legislature has, and this finite window of opportunity to put new legislation out is not a bad thing.
And you get your life back.
That's right.
When they finally,
in theory,
die.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's talk about the March 21st meeting of the Douglas County Board of Commissioners, meeting up at Lake Tahoe. Mm-hmm. And commissioners gave county staff direction for the preparation of a memorandum of understanding between Douglas County and the Tahoe Regional Planning Agency. And this all has to do with turning over the permitting authority to Douglas County for residential construction at Lake Tahoe. And this is rather historic, too, isn't it?
It is. Douglas County is the only local jurisdiction in the Tahoe Basin that does not currently have a memorandum of understanding with the Tahoe Regional Planning Agency for residential development. And so that decision was made over the course of time. Douglas County, prior boards and county managers made the decision not to pursue that course for the reasons that they did. This board is interested, and we believe it's the right time now for Douglas County to join in with the other local jurisdictions and start taking over the permitting of residential development. And it also comes at a time when we're in the process of developing our area plans at Lake Tahoe. So we have a South Shore area plan that we're in the final stage now. We've had a couple workshops in Tahoe over the last few weeks. We'll bring it to our Planning Commission, to our board, and then the TRPA Governing Board ultimately in July for approval. And so we're at the same time that we're developing the area plans and kind of an area plan is sort of like a community plan that's part of your master plan that identifies, the type of development within different areas of the community. And so that will be coming forward, and then we'll be bringing forward the MOU with TRPA on this residential permitting process, which will give Douglas County a greater role in reviewing building permit applications and inspections and those types of things for new construction at Lake Tahoe, for new residential construction, as well as renovations, minor things like new decks or patios or things that TRPA is typically regulated. Douglas County will now take that on, and then we'll amend that MOU as we go forward, and the area plan gets adopted, and then additional changes need to be made. So we'll see over the next several months, I'd say really over the course of the next 6 to 9 months, a number of these items coming forward to get approval from our board and the TRPA for these area plans, and then for the MOUs. And of course, this is assuming that there is not an injunction that's filed by the Sierra Club in the lawsuit that was filed on the new regional plan.
So residents will be dealing directly with Douglas County rather than having to go to the TRPA.
Right.
Then the major projects will still have to go through the TRPA process.
Major projects over a certain threshold. Mm-hmm. Projects over 40,000 square feet for commercial development, and then for a certain square feet over for residential development, we'll still have. But we call those projects of significance, of major significance, that will still have to go to TRPA. Douglas County will handle kind of the day-to-day routine type things that don't require a bi-state regional environmental regulatory agency to review them. we'll do those items.
Well, also, at that March 21st meeting, the Board of Commissioners adjourned and the Regional Transportation Commission convened, and they approved the 5-year county transportation plan at an estimated cost of $903,000 a year. But that still really isn't enough money to maintain the county's roads the way they need to be maintained, right?
That really is the challenge, is we're in the position of putting the limited funds that we have available for road maintenance to the best impact that they can have. But we really face an uphill battle, or as we are calling it, the pothole cliff. We kind of are going off the pothole cliff here, where we were at our pavement condition index, the network of roads that the county is responsible for maintaining, was rated at a 62 2 years ago, which was fair. It was kind of the bottom end of fair. 2 years later, we're at a 58. We've dropped 4 points over 2 years. And we're just going to continue, the condition of our roads that they're rated at will continue to drop off unless we identify additional funding to shift into that area. But we need about $5 million per year more than we have today just to stay at a 58. So
Right.
If you want to increase it to 70, which is our goal, is to get it back up to the fair level at 70, we need like $7 to $7.5 million a year. So you look at that and you go, we're not in a position, we don't have $5 million or $7 million sitting around that we can shift. In order to do that with existing revenue, you'd have to make significant cuts in programs and services that would have a big impact on the community. So my view is we need to have a combination of both. We need to look at existing revenue and shift as much of that as possible, property tax revenue particularly, into road maintenance. Then we need to have a conversation with the community about where is there an appetite for some additional revenue to be identified for this? Because I just don't see how we come up with $5 to $7 million unless there is an appetite to see significant reduction in services. And we're going through the priority-based budgeting program, but the reality is we've spent 4 years cutting positions, cutting programs, cutting services, reducing salaries, and I think we're getting to the point where any additional cuts are going to have a pretty significant impact on the community. So that's the big picture of where we're at. But we'll have more of that discussion starting April 4th at our next board meeting, and then as we go forward, we want to do some workshops with the community. So we continue to manage this 5-year plan and the Regional Transportation Fund, as you said, with the limited funds we have available to us, and we'll do what we can to make that work.
Well, ultimately, it will be up to the Board of Commissioners to figure out where to get that money
Right,
from.
that's right.
So I wish them the best on that. Commissioners also at the meeting approved sending a letter in support of the University of Nevada Cooperative Extension, of which we have an office right here in the Valley. And this is regarding concerns with the consolidation of the Cooperative Extension offices into the UNR College of Agriculture in Reno. So would this mean there would no longer be a presence, if this plan were to go through, of the Cooperative Extension in Douglas County?
There likely would be a presence. The concern that we have with this proposal to roll Cooperative Extension into the College of Agriculture is it would significantly dilute the outreach programs that Cooperative Extension provides to rural communities in Douglas County and other rural communities that don't have a university, higher education university established in their community, like Reno does with UNR, like Las Vegas does with UNLV. And so really one of the primary purposes of Cooperative Extension as a college of the University of Nevada is to provide outreach services to those rural communities in areas that are really critical. And there are some really valuable programs like Living with Fire, outreach program to work with local residents on how to manage fuels and deal with the fact that we're in a wildland fire environment. How do you live with that? The 4-H programs. So a lot, really quality programs that are provided. And the concern that we have is Douglas County currently provides over $250,000 per year to Cooperative Extension. That's Douglas County property taxpayer money in a property tax rate that's levied through the general fund but goes directly to Cooperative Extension programs, over $250,000 per year, this current year, that funds 2.05 full-time equivalent positions for Cooperative Extension. So our funding has remained the same, yet the University of Nevada, Reno's funding has decreased from almost $10 million a year to less than $3 million per year since fiscal year '09.
Wow.
So they've taken a 75% cut over, more than a 75% cut over the past 3 years, and we've kept our funding stable. So what happens? Our property taxpayers continue to fund the services at the current level. The state decreases it, so inevitably we're going to get less service as a result of this merger. And so our board expressed their strong opposition to that move, and we'll send a letter to the Board of Regents, to the legislature, and to the governor expressing our concern about that decision. And we'll continue to monitor it and see where it goes and advocate for keeping Cooperative Extension and those outreach programs separate.
Yeah. Well, if they were to cut back on the programs, I would really miss Steve Lewis and his facilitating abilities.
Right.
He has facilitated so many things in this community so well, and that would be a real loss. I mean, the 4-H and everything else is important too.
Yep.
But,
and I don't know anyone in Douglas County who doesn't know Steve Lewis.
No, I mean,
he is involved, he's active, and he not only has a presence, but he has an impact, I think, in the ways in which he runs that program here in Douglas County. And so Steve's position is funded by the state, but they have additional administrative staff here in Douglas County. Those are the 2.05 positions that are funded by us. And so, there likely would still be some services provided, but our concern again is that we've kept up our commitment. We're funding the programs to the tune of $250,000 per year, yet we continue to see a deterioration in funding from the state and programs as a result of that.
We'll have to keep an eye on that one. Commissioners also showed their support for Senate Bill 271, which states that Nevada can withdraw from the Tahoe Regional Planning Agency under certain circumstances. And they showed their lack of support for a new Senate Bill 229 that wants to repeal 271. I hope you followed that.
Yeah, it's kind of a maze to get to the end goal there, but hopefully at some point we can talk about some state legislation and actions that we're supportive of, as opposed to things that we're in opposition to, because we do talk about being solution-oriented and focusing on solutions here in Douglas County, but we also have a responsibility to stand up, and where there are state actions that would have a negative impact in Douglas County, we have to stand up and oppose those. And so Senate Bill 271 in the 2011 Nevada legislature in its current law would allow for Nevada to pull out of the bi-state Tahoe Regional Planning Compact unless certain deadlines are met. One of those deadlines was the update and approval of a new regional plan in Lake Tahoe. That was done in December of 2012, just a few months ago. But it's been sued by the Sierra Club, as we just mentioned. Even though the regional plan is widely regarded as being a strong benefit to the environment, and the League to Save Lake Tahoe and the Nevada Conservation League and local residents and the city of South Lake Tahoe and Douglas County and businesses and the vast majority, the governors of California and Nevada, who are of different parties. So you've got environmentalists, businesses, residents, government, and both political parties that have all come together and said, this is a good plan, it moves us forward, protects the environment, improves our community, and improves the economy. Yet it's been sued by a small group of so-called environmentalists who appear to be more concerned with obstruction via lawsuits to save the environment, as opposed to what we're trying to do, focus on solutions and implement actual improvements in water quality and lake clarity and all of these things. So SB 271's had a positive impact. That's current law. The board has indicated its continued support for SB 271. This new bill, SB 229, would repeal the current law and not allow for that hammer that we have that has been really effective at driving this positive change. And so the board has expressed its concern, and we'll send a letter to the legislature again opposing SB 229.
I like the way you put that, hammer.
It is, and that's what it is. It's a hammer that has driven some change, and it's what was needed, because the other side, the small group of so-called environmentalists who fought any progress on the environment, have obstructed that progress through the hammer that they've had, which is lawsuits.
Right.
They've had a hammer in lawsuits. We've tried to move things forward. SB 271 has been Nevada's hammer, and really Nevada and California's hammer for any of those who really care about improving the environment and moving forward on progress there. So you got me fired up here, Lloyd. This is one I feel really strongly about, and we care strongly about the environment and conservation in Douglas County. And sometimes Nevada's given a bad rap for being a wasteland. For I don't know where that comes from, because let me give you an example.
They've never been to the Carson Valley or
They've
Lake
never
Tahoe.
been to Carson Valley or Douglas County
Yeah.
in Lake Tahoe. They've maybe been to other places in California, in the valleys in California. And I don't mean to disparage California, but with all respect, Douglas County has 18.2% of the shoreline in Lake Tahoe. Okay,
Right.
18.2% of the Lake Tahoe shoreline is in Douglas County. Do you know how much the fine sediment pollutants Douglas County contributes? 3%. So we have 18% of the shoreline, over 18% of the shoreline, but we only contribute 3% of the fine sediment load that creates the deterioration of lake clarity. So that tells you what a good job we're doing filtering all of that fine sediment and making sure that the amount of pollutants that end up into the lake are very minimal.
And you're trying to get it down to 1%.
We're trying to get it down to 0% if possible. But anyways, that's a long story short. But feel really strong about getting that message out there that we're doing government, the private sector, and others who care about the environment. The Nevada Conservation League, the League to Save Lake Tahoe even, has come on board and supported the regional plan.
Which is an accomplishment.
Which is an accomplishment in and of itself. They typically were on the lawsuit side. They've now come in support of this. So we need to get reasonable people who understand how to implement solutions to the environment, the economy, and the community to jump onto this, this direction.
Let me kick that soapbox out of the way.
Okay, all right, thank you.
But we're getting short on time, and we have quite a bit more to cover. But
right.
Maybe we can kind of cover the rest of it kind of quickly.
Sure.
Commissioners gave their approval to a proposed reorganization of Douglas County Social Services Division. What did they decide to change?
Well,
there?
and we've taken on a number of programs and services through additional grants that we've secured, and through state pass downs. In the last legislative session, a lot of functions were pushed down. So did a reorganization. We'll save over $41,000 in salary savings by doing this reorganization, and that will pay. There will be some increases that occur in the first couple years, and that savings will pay for the first 5 years of the increased costs there. And if there are increased costs in the future, we'll make reductions. If grant funds go away, then we make corresponding expenditure reductions with that. So this was a good move, and consistent with what we continue to do in our departments to reorganize to create more cost-effective services and ultimately reduce the cost to taxpayers.
Okay. Also, a presentation was made. This was from the Prosperity Center at Lake Tahoe, and they were presenting their prosperity plan. And can you give us a little preview there?
The nonprofit Tahoe Prosperity Center was established in 2011, and it's a group of stakeholders that are catalysts for regional environmental success and stability. And they represent business, government, education, banking, environment. In all of those areas, they're focused on leadership, planning, policy, infrastructure, capital investment. And really the four areas are education and workforce development, health and wellness, and tourism. And so they're focused on creating initiatives that will support economic investment in those areas.
Okay. Commissioners also approved a land access program improvement grant, and this application actually is what it was, for improvements on the Kingsbury Grade Trailhead. What kind of improvements they want to make there?
This would be restaurant facilities, parking enhancements, trash receptacles, those kinds. It's a heavily utilized access point to the Tahoe Rim Trail, and both for off-road vehicles and for hiking and equestrian and those types of uses. So again, it's a grant application. If we're awarded the grant, we'll make those investments, and then the county parks staff will maintain the trash and the restroom facilities and everything. So you see a lot of investments being made both in the Carson Valley and at Lake Tahoe in outdoor recreation, and particularly trails. People want to access trails, both for transportation to connect services and businesses, and for pure recreation purposes. And so we've recognized it's not just about recreation. Recreation is the core piece, and then it's really about creating a tourism base and growing the economy through through those investments. So that's what we're doing with that grant application.
How much money is involved in that grant?
It's about, I believe it was a $2 million, about a $2 million grant application, and there's no match requirement by Douglas County. There's no contribution from Douglas County other than maintaining the improvements and doing the trash receptacles and those kind of things.
Okay. Commissioners directed county staff on writing a legislative communication policy. That's for lobbyists and elected officials when they're representing Douglas County at the state legislature.
And this is really just to have clarity around how we conduct ourselves, the different roles between staff and lobbyists and Board of Commissioners and others during the legislative session, how we communicate with the legislature, with each other, that we'll have regular legislative updates at board meetings, that the board will provide clear direction to staff on issues like we talked about, Cooperative Extension and the Tahoe bills and those kind of things, that we get clear direction, and then we can go and advocate those positions to the legislature, that the majority vote of the board is the position of the county, that we're not going to there may be those that oppose that, but in the minority, but that the majority will speak, and we're not going to represent the minority position. That's the way that democracy works. And that staff, the county manager and his staff, will have the ability to have flexibility and make determinations where timing is of the essence, and we can't go to the board and get formal direction, where we know an issue would be in the best interest or the least interest of Douglas County, and that we can take that position. So, just some general guiding policies and principles for how we conduct ourselves during the legislature.
Well, speaking of the legislature, you gave a legislative update, and as we mentioned at the top of this program, you've been pretty busy keeping up on all the bills.
Yeah.
Can you give us a highlight of some of the bills that may affect Douglas County?
Sure. There are close to 1,000 bills now that are out. We're tracking about half of those, about 500 or so of those bills we're keeping track of, because they may have a direct impact on Douglas County or an indirect or loose impact, but we're just following it. So I mentioned SB 229, the TRPL repeal of SB 271, so we're opposing that one. There are a couple of bills out. AB 157 is a water bill that we're looking at. It would allow people to drill wells, domestic wells on a 1 acre lot if rates go up by a certain amount. There's another one, AB 387, that talks about restricting bonding of local governments unless you get a 2/3 vote of the electorate. So some concerning ones there, and then the ones I mentioned, I think are really the big ones. SB 171 is the other one that would allow $6.5 million in state funding for local investment in infrastructure like roads. We really could use any and all funds available from the state or others to invest in our roads, so we like that one.
And you're not seeing any pass downs so far?
No, we have not. Other than we've seen potential reduction services like Cooperative Extension. We've seen China Spring Youth Camp, a reduction in funding there through an unintended consequence in the governor's budget, where they reduced the property tax rate. It was a legislative override property tax rate. They reduced it to try and help counties. It actually hurts us. So it would have a bigger impact on our general fund by about $30,000 for China Spring. So that's what we're seeing is some things that, not a concerted effort to push more costs onto counties, but indirect efforts that would either reduce the level of service at the local level or could have an impact on an additional cost.
Okay, we've got about a minute left. Can you give us an overview of the April 4th meeting of commissioners?
Yeah, we have, not a really heavy agenda, but we have a few items. The assignment of the Genoa Vista Trail maintenance that just went in. Wonderful trail. If you haven't been there, have you been on it, Lloyd?
Not yet. No.
Great. Take a look and use that. It's heavily utilized, and the town of Genoa is looking to take over maintenance of that trail, so we'll have that on there. We'll talk about options for road maintenance and repair funding. Big issue. And that was deferred from the last meeting because not all 5 commissioners were there. So big discussion on roads. I'd say that's the big item that we have there. 5-year transportation plan approval. And then the second hearing and approval of additional uses for light industrial land uses. We talked about light industrial zoning in business parks, allowing for recreational and other uses that we're responding to the business community there. So a few good items, and we'll look to take care of the people's business on April 4th.
Okay, well, thank you very much for all the information, Steve. This is the County Manager's Report, where we talk to County Manager Steve Mogrohajski. I'm Lloyd Higuera, and we'll see you next time on the County Manager's Report.